Hi everyone, I'm telling you today about Raymond Carver, who is an American poet and short story writer, as it says on the main screen there. Raymond Carver is going to be the author that we study for the last couple weeks of the school year here. I chose him, number one, because I'm pretty familiar with his work, so it's easier for me to teach it. Also, because he's a contemporary writer, which fits the nature of the course, and he's also I think he writes a lot about things that we understand, the blue collar struggle, miscommunication between genders. And he also writes work that is considered to be minimalist, which I think everybody will appreciate at the end of the year here. So he is a poet and a short story writer, as I said. We are not going to be reading his poetry, but focusing on a few of his short stories. In Raymond Carver's early life, he was born in an Oregon logging town in 1938, and he married Mary Ann Burke right after she got out of an all girls school. And they had two children by the time that he was age 20. So you can imagine he was pretty busy in his younger years. He worked a series of low paying jobs. Some of those jobs were delivery man, janitor, library assistant, sawmill laborer, which makes sense seeing that he was born in a logging town. And when he worked all of these low paying jobs, his wife was kind of being the breadwinner for the family. Marianne was an administrative assistant. She worked as a high school English teacher, a salesperson, and a waitress. And so, although they worked very hard, eventually they moved to Paradise, California to be closer to Carver's mother in law. So, when Carver, this is his post high school graduation, obviously, he was not a great student, which is encouraging because he was a great writer and he got a lot of the recognition that he deserved while he was alive. So that's good. He was enrolled in a creative writing course at Chico State College, and he published his first short story in 1961 called The Furious Seasons. He did get a Bachelor's of Arts from Humboldt State College, but he actually got that degree in general studies and not English because he refused to take the foreign language courses that were required for an English degree. He graduated with about a B minus average, so not the best student, but not terrible either. And even though he did go on to pursue a graduate degree, I don't think he ever got it. He was accepted into the Iowa Writers Workshop for the 1963 to 1964 school year, but he only completed 12 credits of the 30 required for a master's degree, or 60 credits for the Master of Fine Arts, which is basically creative writing. He just really had a lot of social anxiety. He couldn't really fit in with the upper middle class milieu of the college. However, that did not stop him from producing two books of poetry. And then, of course, his first book of short stories. It took a while, took about 12 years, but his book of short stories was called Will You Please Be Quiet, Please? and he had several jobs. He taught at the University of California in Santa Cruz. While he's teaching, he was also admitted to the non-degree graduate creative writing program at Stanford. Honestly, I don't know if he actually finished that or not. He does not have a good track record, so I couldn't see anywhere. I tried to do some reading and I wasn't sure if he actually finished or not. Doesn't really matter. He taught at the University of California in Berkeley, which is a pretty well-established school. However, despite his striving and successful professional career, he had many personal struggles. So he actually, like most authors, struggled with alcohol abuse and drugs. He abused alcohol until 1977 when he quit drinking with the help of AA, although he did continue to smoke cigarettes and marijuana, and he dabbled a little in cocaine, which was probably not good for him. But through all of this, he also had a lot of affairs. And so he ended up actually divorcing his first wife, Marianne Burke Carver, in 1982. However, that was 5 years after he actually met the woman he married next. Tess Gallagher he met in November 1977, and they were an item most of the rest of his life. And he actually, even though he was divorced in 1982, he didn't remarry until 1988. And he only got remarried 6 weeks prior to his death from lung cancer, which was probably caused by the fact that he smoked like 60 cigarettes a day for most of his life. Carver is known specifically for his work in minimalism, although he did not consider himself that to be a minimalist writer. Minimalism is described, as you might guess, as an economy with words and a focus on surface description. He did not write very lengthy short stories, and he did not write with a lot of detail. He is kind of along the same lines of Ernest Hemingway, who you may have heard of, and Stephen Crane, again, who you may have heard of, maybe not. But he did not think of himself as a minimalist, but inclined toward brevity and intensity. He actually rejected any kind of categorization of his work. And as I mentioned earlier, his work focused on blue-collar experience and the collapse of human relationships, specifically the inability for men and women to connect or communicate, which I think you will see in the couple of stories that we're going to read throughout the rest of the school year. So maybe you'll like him, maybe you won't. Hope you give him a chance. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask, or you can visit any of these sites and get more information on your own.